All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Rainey Tebow. I'm a member of the New England Dairy Team. We are a nonprofit funded by dairy farmers that work to educate the public about dairy farming and dairy nutrition. I am coming to you today from my home in northern Vermont, about 200 miles north of today's dairy farm. And I am super excited to have all of you join us for a tour of an amazing dairy farm in Deerfield, Massachusetts. So before we begin, we have a few notes to share with all of you. This tour will last about 45 minutes with some time for questions at the end. I know some people are joining us through Zoom and others from YouTube today. In both cases, you are muted, but if you do have questions throughout the tour, please type those in the Q&A box or in the comment box if you are on YouTube. We will work to get all of those answered during the tour and at the end during our Q&A session. If you feel like it, please include where you're from, what classroom you're with, and we'll try to give you a shout out throughout the tour. Please know that we have a couple poll questions during today's tour, so check those out. If you are listening, if you're watching through Zoom, please participate in those. They'll be clickable right on your screen. And if you are watching through YouTube, please drop an answer down in the comment section. Now, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on New England Dairy's website following the webinar. You will receive an email containing a link to the recording along with an evaluation. Please respond. We'd love to know how we did today, if you enjoyed what hopefully will be an amazing tour. And make sure you check out our website for lots of great dairy farm and dairy nutrition information. We've got some great informational videos, blog posts, recipes, links to meet other New England dairy farmers. And we invite you to stay connected with all of us on social media at New England Dairy. So a last reminder, today's tour is live. It's being streamed live as we speak. So we'll do our best to make sure there's no blips in our video quality, but stay with us and we'll do our best to make sure this is a smooth one. With all that said, let's head to the farm and meet our host, Peter Melnik of Barway Farm in Deerfield. Peter, how are you today?
Good, Rainey. Good to be talking. I'm really excited for the tour today. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully everyone will learn something, and I don't know, just excited to tell you about Barway Farm, which is my family's farm, and what we've been doing here for the last 100 years.
Very cool. So Peter, we've got a little bit of rain up here in Vermont today. It looks a little foggy out there behind you. No matter what, a good day for a virtual farm tour. So first off, give us some background, give us the history of your family farm.
So my great-grandfather came over from immigrated from Austria with his brother, and they started this farm in 1919. It was a small, they probably had 10 milk cows to start with. Most of the milking was done by hand, and they grew vegetables. They grew tobacco, onions. The Deerfield River Valley, which we are in right now, is known for probably having some of the most fertile soil in the world. And what that fertile soil does for us is it enables us to grow some of the best feed for our animals. They consume that feed and make really great healthy milk. It's all coordinated, it's all tied together. So my grandfather came over here in 1919, 101 years we've been here, and started a few cows, vegetable farming, and had 9 kids. My grandfather took over the farm when he was 16 years old, so probably quite typical, I mean, close in age to some of the viewers right now. So imagine dropping out of school, which probably some of you wouldn't mind, or thinking that you're actually doing right now, and taking over a dairy farm and having to do all this work with your brothers and sisters. So he took over the farm. It was very small, about 40 acres at the time. And then we continued to be a diversified operation. And then in the 70s, we really focused on dairy, where we built our main dairy complex, and we were milking over 300 cows. And that's about what we milk now. And we've kind of come full circle. The cows are the backbone of the operation and really anchor what we do. But we continued to be more diversified, which is funny because that's how the farm started, and that's really what we've come back to. And I'll show you, we grow vegetables, we're growing hemp, and we also have a methane digester. So we're also growing electricity. So to start the tour, I want to talk quickly about this. We're standing here. We want to start the tour in the dairy facility, the maternity barn. We're just building this brand new barn. It should be done in a couple weeks. And this is where the cows will be when they have their baby. So it's just like maternity ward in a hospital. And there's pens for the cows, and then there's be individual pen for the cow when she has her baby. We'll have cameras here, so there'll be 24-hour surveillance. I'll be able to get on my iPhone and watch the cow having a baby, see if she needs help, and just walk. I'll walk out of my house and come check her, make sure everything's all right. And so I just thought this would be a great place to start the farm because it's really the beginning. It's the beginning of the cycle. The cow has the baby, and then she starts to go back into the milking string. So just a little, this is really, it's kind of hard to see right now, but this is our new maternity barn.
Very
So
cool. So
go
Peter,
ahead.
sorry to interrupt you there. We have a lot of excited folks joining us. We've got Mrs. Murray's class with us today. We've got the 6th grade students from Pine Tree School in Conway, New Hampshire. We've got kids from Webster Middle School, Holy Trinity. A lot of excited viewers with us today. So Peter, you just showed us your new maternity barn that is being worked on right now. What led to you guys wanting this new facility, and what benefits will that bring to you at the farm?
Well, it's one of the most important days in the cow's life is having that baby. And we really wanted to make sure that that facility was just top notch. She was super comfortable, clean. It's just, like I said, it's just a really, really important day, just like in a mom's life and us as babies. So we really wanted to focus on making that the best environment possible. So
Very cool.
yeah, so now we're heading over. Once the calves are born, they stay with their mother for about 24 hours, and then they come over to the cow barn and the calf barn, excuse me. And this is where all the babies come. They stay here for about 10 weeks, so 2.5 months. They drink their mother's milk. They get fed twice a day, 2 quarts in the morning, 2 quarts at night. And actually the bigger ones will even drink more. And then we wean them. So that means we start taking the milk away and get them drinking water and hay and grain. So they get their energy and their protein and energy from the hay and the grain instead of the milk. But this is their first home. And as you can tell, they all have names. We have, right now we have 300 milking cows and about 200 young cows that are being raised to replace them, to take their place. And we name each individual, each calf gets a name, and it has their ID tag, and it has their date of birth on there, so we can really focus on how old they are and make sure they're progressing the way they're supposed to be. So
Yeah.
this is really another important time in their life, and this is everyone's favorite place to visit because they are super friendly and they're pretty cute.
So Peter, we have a couple questions. Folks are wondering why the calves end up in a separate barn. What are the health and safety benefits to doing that?
So probably one of the biggest reasons is that the modern dairy cow produces a lot more milk than a baby calf could drink. So we need to be able to take the milk away from the mother. And the inconsistency of the calf nursing on the cow and then not nursing would be really hard on the dairy animal and also on the calf. So really the system has come to taking taking the calf away and then feeding it its exact diet. And also with everybody living together in the dairy barn, it would be hard to get them into the milking parlor without the calves getting run over by their mother. So sort of a safety and a health issue.
Mhm. So, Peter, give us some other interesting facts about calves. How much do they weigh when they're born? How quickly can they walk? What are some other neat things about the
So,
calves you have on the farm?
so yeah, that's a great question. So the calves they're born and they can literally stand up within a couple hours, and they most of them average between 80 and 100 pounds when they're born. So um, you can imagine giving birth to someone that is almost as big as a a third grader. um, so it's they are bigger than us. An average Holstein cow weighs 1,500 pounds. A Jersey, the brown cows, they weigh over 1,000 pounds. Like I said, and the calves go anywhere 50 to 100 pounds when the day they're born, and they get up and they will get up. And the reason they can get up right away is because they'll want to start nursing on their mom right away.
Hmm.
And so that's that's what they do when they're born. And like I said, they really they grow like crazy. They'll be in 2 months, they'll gain almost 2 pounds a day. So they really they take off.
So, Peter, we have a couple other questions here. How important are these calves to the future of your farm? You spoke to the larger cows giving birth. That's one of the most important days, of their time on the farm. How important are these calves to the future of your farm?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make sure the next generation's a little bit better than the one that gave birth to them. So we make sure that the calves get a clean, dry, happy environment to live in, that they get fed well, and that they have a great chance to grow up and be really happy, productive cows. And it takes a lot of work, a lot of attention to detail. Um, the calves can they can get sick just like babies. They can't talk, so it's a challenge to figure out what's wrong with them sometimes. A good calf feeder is a really good skill to have. It's kind of like almost being a mother. You got to really pay attention to all the little things that can go wrong. But as you can tell, most of these calves right here are pretty happy. They just had their breakfast, and most of them are laying down. Few of them are up having their grain, their daily grain. So yeah, it's just important that we take good care of them so that they can replace their mothers.
So some folks are wondering how many calves are born on your farm roughly per day.
So we have, like I said, we have the 300 cows, and a cow will typically have a calf every year. So we're having a newborn calf, not every day, but it seems like almost every day of the year we have a new calf.
That's awesome. Some folks are also wondering, we see a lot of black and white calves in here. You spoke about Holsteins earlier. Is that your preferred type of cow on the farm?
Yeah, so we have mostly Holsteins, the black and white cows. They are the most productive. They give the most milk. But Jerseys, brown Swiss, there are lots of other breeds of cows, and it's sort of preference. It's like having a black lab or a hound dog. It's like whatever you choose. We chose the Holstein. We do have about 15% of our herd are Jerseys, and some are some Jersey Holstein crosses. And it's just sort of what we chose.
Yes.
I have a lot of friends that have Holstein calves, Jersey calves, and they think the Jerseys are the best. So it's sort of just preference.
There you go. So I think this is a good spot to throw up our first poll for folks. So we'll cue that up as we're moving to our next location here. And a reminder, if you're with us on Zoom, please participate. If you're on YouTube, drop your answer in the comment section. So first question, true or false, calves can walk the same day they are born. So if you were listening earlier, Peter did touch on this fact. So we'll give everyone a couple moments and pop your answer in there.
So Rainey, next I was gonna take you over to the milking center.
All right.
So as the calves go to the calf barn, the cow's main function after her birth is to come and make some milk for everybody to drink. So we're going to be in the milking center right now, and I'm standing next to the milk tank. We call it the bulk tank, and this is where the milk is stored after we milk the cows twice a day. And it's a really important part of the dairy farm. This is where, like I said, where the milk is stored. Very important that it is cooled almost instantly. So the milk comes out of the cow. And here's an interesting question you might want to throw out there too. Does anyone have an idea what the temperature of the milk is when it comes out of the cow? I can tell you that the bulk tank, we store the milk at about 34 degrees, so almost freezing. And that keeps it really fresh. And when the milk truck comes and brings it to the dairy processing plant every day. And then after he takes it, we wash this thoroughly 3 times with water, soap, and an acid to make chlorine to make sure that the tank is clean and no bacteria grows. And cleanliness is definitely a big part of what we do to make a really good product. Every load of milk is also when the milk truck driver comes, he takes a sample and they test it for bacterias and for its protein and butterfat content, but also to make sure that there is no antibiotics. And that's one of the things that we take a lot of pride in, is that our milk is, each load of milk is tested parts per trillion for antibiotics. And there's never any milk that leaves any dairy farm that could enter the food supply that has any antibiotics in it. And all dairy farmers take a lot of pride in that, because we do, if cows do get sick, we do treat them. Just like if you have an ear infection, you get treated with antibiotic. Well, if our calves have an ear infection or a cow has pneumonia or something and they need to have the right medicine, we do that. But before their milk can go into the bulk tank, we make sure that the cow has no traces. So
Peter, going back to our poll question, good news, we had about 100% of folks say true on their response. So they had their listening caps on, so good news. And we have a guess at the temperature of the milk coming out of the cow. Emily says maybe about 100 degrees. Is she close on that one?
Well, yeah, that's close enough. Yeah, the cows are about 100 to 102 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's right on. Good job.
Nice. So where are we at now, Peter?
Next, we're at the milking parlor, and we have a tape of that. Because right now it's not milking. We milk in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock at night. And we usually finish around 8 o'clock, but we do have a video of the milking going on. You can see the cows come in, they line up. They stand there very calmly. They actually really enjoy milking. If they didn't get milked, it'd be very uncomfortable for them. There's probably some mothers in the audience that can associate with that feeling of having a little bit too much milk. And so that we milk them twice a day. The machines run on air and vacuum, and they extract the milk. It's very comfortable for the cows. We attach the udders. You can see right there, the milking machine is on the cow. It takes about 4 to 5 minutes. And our cows are giving the equivalent of about 8 to 10 gallons of milk per day. So about five or six, they give a little more in the morning. I'm not sure why, a little more productive like us in the morning. And then they give just about the same amount at night. And it goes up the pipeline, and it goes from the milking machine up through a pipeline into the bulk tank, and then off to the processor, and then into into the jugs and then up the grocery store for everybody to consume. And that's really what we do here. And it takes a lot of work. Our farm is open 365 days. There's probably been a cow milked on this farm for over 100 years. So if you can think about that, we milk Christmas morning, Thanksgiving morning, all the time. When the power goes out, we have a backup generator. The cows have to be milked twice a day, no matter what the weather, no matter how we're feeling. It's got to get done.
Yeah. So we've got a couple good questions here for you, Peter, about the milking parlor. So Brian asks, how often do cows produce milk?
How often? So basically, I guess the best way to answer that question is to say, we've been talking about a lot about the birthing. So when the cow has her first calf, she starts to milk. And for the first 60 days of after having a calf, she'll make 60 to 100 days, she'll make the most amount of milk. And she will continue to milk for about 300 days. And then the hope is that she gets pregnant again, and then we'll have another calf. And then the cycle will continue again. So I hope that answers the question.
Definitely. And as you're walking, we'll bring up our second poll question of the day. So again, folks on Zoom, please pop your answer when the box appears. And if you're on YouTube, drop an answer in the comment section for us. But our number 2 poll question, how many times a day are cows milked at Barway Farm? So take a moment, think about that answer. Peter, again, did touch on this a couple minutes ago back in the milking parlor. So we'll get some answers there and we'll show that on the screen. All right.
So now we're walking to the cow barn, and this is where the cows live. This barn is called a Freestall Barn, and when we get there, we'll kind of describe the cows they call it a Freestall Barn because there are stalls for each cow, but they're free to choose whichever stall they want to. Another interesting, really neat fact about dairy cows, they are creatures of habit. So cows tend to be, the first cow to get milked in the morning is usually the same cow. The last one is usually the same last cow. They often will lay in the same stall that they always choose. And so a lot like humans, they are creatures of habit. You can see this is where they reside. A lot of them are laying down. They've been milked. This herd was milked at 8 o'clock, and then they come back to their food, and they will eat. There's fresh water for them in the barn. And they have their own beds. We bed them just about every other day with fresh bedding, and it makes a clean, comfortable, happy cow. And the more comfortable a cow is, the more milk she'll make. They actually make most of their milk when they're lying down chewing their cud. And chewing the cud is that expression, everyone's heard it, but it's the cows, they actually eat the hay and the corn and the grain that we feed them, and they will regurgitate it and chew it again, and then swallow it and do it again, because they're eating a lot of fibrous material that we can't digest. But with their 4 stomachs and their ability to digest grass and corn, they want to lay down and chew their cud, and that's a sign of a cow that's actually making milk.
Yeah. So Peter, we'll see if we can get the answers to our poll question up here, and then I have a question for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Big majority says you milk your cows 2 to 3 times a day on the farm. So again, good listeners out there.
Yep.
So Peter, can you talk a bit more about what the cows eat? You mentioned a few of the items a minute ago, but what else are the cows chewing on there in the barn?
So we the cows get a specific diet based on how much milk they're making, and that's actually how we group them. We have 3 different pens,
Mm.
and each diet is specifically made for each, you know, how much they're producing. But basically, the majority of their feed is hay, which is grass or alfalfa, chopped into small pieces and ensiled, and then corn, which is the same, done the same process. And we grow that on over 600 acres of our farmland. And then we also feed them brewer's grain from a local brewery, and they get soybeans and cornmeal and some canola. And those products we import basically from the Midwest.
Mhm.
And those just give the cows a little bit of extra energy and protein that they need to produce, you know, 8 to 10 to 12 gallons of milk a day. Um, Cows will drink over 30 to 50 gallons of water in the summertime.
Wow.
So it takes a lot of water. When you think about milk, it is mostly water. So water is probably their most important nutrient.
So there's an interesting question here, Peter. And the question is, does the food change with the seasons? But I think that lends itself well to, we're not going to see your crop fields today, but what kind of work goes into creating the feed for your herd here on the farm?
So yeah, so the feed is consistent. Cows, like I said, creatures of habit. They like the same thing all the time. And they basically eat the same diet. And we make silage, which is basically we chop the hay and we chop the corn when it's mature. The hay is through the summer. The corn happens in September. The corn harvest happens in September. We ensile it. By ensiling it, it makes it basically ferment, and then it is good to eat all year round. It stores well. It stays preserved, and that's what we do. You know, that's what we do with the feed, so they can have it year round. They do when they're younger. We do put them out on pasture, and they eat green grass. And they roam around out in the fields, so they do eat green grass then. But mostly they're in the barn, eating the controlled diet. And like I said, it takes a lot of work to put in all the feed that these animals are eating. It's almost 30 tons of feed a day we have. So if you can picture a big tractor trailer truck that goes down the road, that trailer load of feed to feed all the cows every day.
Mhm. Peter, you spoke of the stalls, the fact that the cows have the freedom to sleep wherever they'd like or relax wherever they like, access to food and water all day long. What other cow comfort things do you do in the barn or do you have in the barn for them? And why is cow comfort so important?
So, yeah, so a comfortable, happy cow, you know, is a cow that's going to make a lot of milk and a lot of good quality milk. So, the saying goes, if you take care of the cows will take care of you. So
Mhm.
that's like our main emphasis here is just we trim their feet. So they get like a pedicure twice a year. We have a hoof trimmer come and do their feet to make sure their feet are in really good tip top shape and their hooves are not growing too long. Um, they see the vet whenever it's necessary, but we also have big fans running in the barn, keeping it cool because cows really prefer cool as opposed to warm. Anything over 80 degrees is kind of uncomfortable. If you can imagine, they weigh 1,500 pounds and have a leather coat on, so a little bit warm in the summertime.
Mhm.
But they they get fresh water. They see the vet and the hoof trimmer. The ventilation is very important. Um, they enjoy being, you know, being able to walk around with their herd mates. There's definitely some social interaction that goes around. You know, they're herd animals, so they have their pecking order. Um, and you'll see there, some of them are pretty playful, but it's really just about, you know, like I said, if a cow is laying down chewing her cud, she's happy, and we just really focus on making sure that that is her top priority.
Mhm.
And also just, you know, keeping them clean, keeping them on a good schedule. keeping them to their habits. So I think
Yeah,
that's really what we focus on.
that's great.
So
So we've gotten a lot of great shots, Peter, of the ear tags. Can you, as we're walking here, can you explain again the benefits or the purpose of those ear tags on your cows?
So yeah, so we have a computer program, a database that basically has all the cow's information: when she was born, when she might have got her vaccination shots, any medical history, how much milk she's making.
Mhm.
We just keep track of all that. It's all on a computer, um, and it just helps us to know how each individual cow is doing. And the names really just if you picture a school, if you have 200 or 300 kids in a school, um, it seems like a lot of people, but once you're there for a while, you get to know everybody. Well, we kind of feel the same way about our, the cows in the barn. They have their own names, they have numbers, just for ID, but we're just our way of keeping track. We call it basically like a name tag.
Mhm.
Um, and some of them do look a lot alike. So the numbers are just helpful to be able to differentiate them. But really, when you're with them all the time, milking them twice a day, feeding them, cleaning them, you really do get to know who they are.
Yeah.
So that's why we use the name tags.
Mhm. So Peter, where are we headed? I know where we're headed. I'm very excited for this next stop, but give us a little insight. Where are we headed now?
So one of the things that's really important on our farm is sustainability. And when I came back to the farm after going to college, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make our farm really environmentally sustainable.
Mhm.
And I looked into a technology called methane digestion, and it's been around for a long, long time, but it's a pretty basic scientific process. But basically, what I did is we found a company that Vanguard Renewables that was looking to do sort of the same thing I was. And basically, what we're doing is we work together. They manage the process, but it's on my dairy farm. We basically make cow power, and
Mhm.
we take the cow manure that we scrape from the cows every day, and we pump the manure into this big vessel. You can see there's two bubbles, and we take the manure, and we also take food waste that we receive from food manufacturers all over the Northeast, some of them which you probably are familiar with. And we take that waste that otherwise would just go into a landfill, and we put it to that same temperature, 102 degrees, just like the cow's stomach, but this is the
Mhm.
digester, which is sort of like a stomach. And inside there's no oxygen. And the bugs, basically, there's tiny microbes, and they are processing processing the cow manure and the food waste at 102 degrees, and they basically fart for a simple way, and that fart is methane. The methane is captured in the bubble that you see, and then the methane is then pumped over to extracted off the top of the digester, and it goes and it runs a generator it's a big engine that runs on methane instead of diesel or gasoline like your car, and that turns a generator which then makes electricity. And we actually make 1 megawatt an hour, which is roughly enough to power about 800 homes. So almost every home in our town of Deerfield can be powered by this methane digester. So it's really another byproduct, and it's another diversification for our dairy farm. But it's also just really making sure that we are very good stewards of the land and good
Mhm.
neighbors in our community, because we take the after we power all the homes in town, we take the material from the end of the product, and it is actually stored in these big blue tanks, um, and we spread that on the fields, which then go in the spring and the fall. And that is basically fertilizer to grow the hay and the corn that we saw in front of the cows. So it's this big biocycle that is created from the methane digestion process. And we're really proud of being able to almost be self-sustainable. We make our own power. We're making our own fertilizer to grow our own feed for the cows. And it's really kind of neat if you think about it. Some of the milk goes to dairy processing plant, and the dairy processing plant actually brings the waste products from there back to the digester. So, and they buy our electricity. So it actually, the cycle just keeps going round and round and round in circles. And it's just much more sustainable than buying energy from, having picture oil being extracted from the Middle East, shipped all the way over here, and then being used to make electricity, or natural gas piped in from other places. So it's really our way of just making a small bio loop and trying to be good neighbors. Because one of the great things about the digester is many of you might have driven by a farm in the spring and smelt the fresh cow manure spread and say, turn your nose a little bit. But actually, after the bugs fart, the methane, that's the stinky part. The rest of it the fertilizer we spread on the field doesn't spread anymore. So our neighbors are really excited about this, because not only are we powering their house, but we're also fertilizing the neighborhood with less pungent odor. So it's really been a big plus for everybody.
Nice. So as we walk, Peter, I want to recap. So you guys collect the manure from the barn. It is sent to the tank. It's heated up. The microbes then do their thing, convert the manure into gas, and then that methane gas is turned into electricity. So a very unique process. What do you think this farm recently celebrated your 100-year anniversary. What do you think your previous generations would think about this process? This wasn't even maybe an idea in 1919.
Yeah, that's a great question, Rainey. It's amazing to think of all the changes that have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the basic things, like the cows getting milk twice a day, doesn't ever seem to change. Planting corn in May 1st, harvesting hay at Memorial Day. I mean, those things just seem to continue time and time again. But I think what's really changed is how technology has made the farm evolve. If you think about it, I can actually run the digester from my iPhone anywhere in the world, as long as I had internet connection or Wi-Fi. And I think that my grandfather could have no way to really visualize you can see the load of food waste is coming in right here. So it's just the facts that the technology has changed farming so much. And I think one of the biggest things I think that they would probably be amazed at is just how we have, how it's evolved, that we don't do as much of the physical, we don't do as much of the physical labor that they did. I said they used to milk cows by hand, and now we have machines that do it. And other farms around us actually have robots that milk the cows. So that change is just really probably, from horses to tractors, and then tractors that actually drive themselves. So just lots of technology that's changed the way that we, do basically the same thing that they did, but just using what technology is available today.
So we're back in the barn, Peter. We see one of your very photogenic Jersey cows here.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like they tend to be they like the camera. So yeah, and you can tell just
wondering about
Peter. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. What other jobs do you have on the farm?
So um, I'm actually the general manager.
Mhm.
We have three different, we have the dairy part, we have the digester, and the vegetable and hemp operation. So I kind of keep track of everything. Um, but we have a herdsman that's main job is to stay in to focus on the dairy. We have people that milk the cows twice a day. People that that just do the field work. We have a full-time mechanic to keep all the tractors and equipment running all the time. It takes about well, in our busiest time of the vegetable season, we will have 30 people working here, but
Mhm.
mostly all year round to operate the dairy alone, it's about 7 people full time. And there's always things to do. Like I said, 365 days a year.
Yeah. You talked about how technology is always evolving. We had a good question here from someone about you and your employees and the other folks on the farm, other family members. How do you guys stay educated sort of on the latest trends or technology or practices related to farming? How do you go about that?
Well, well, we used to read trade magazines. I went to college. Um, uh, what your neighbors are trying to do is a big thing, but YouTube is really uh,
Yeah.
whenever you have a question, you just go to YouTube and you can watch somebody else try it and see what their experiences are. So yeah, technology is great. You used to have to make 100 phone calls to find out what you might do if a cow is sick, or how deep do you plant a seed. Just so many questions. But you go to YouTube and you can pretty much find that answer out, which is kind of neat. Makes our job a little bit easier, but sometimes a little bit harder because that when the internet, you can have lots of different ways to do the same thing. So you have to kind of pick maybe what works best. So that is a great question, and one I get asked quite frequently, actually.
hmm There's a really good one here from Lynn Smith. She is wondering what would you say to get kids interested in agriculture or in farming, whether they're from our more urban parts of New England or whether they're from some of our more rural areas? Why is ag and farming a great career path?
So that's a great question. I think back to when I graduated from college, I basically could have done whatever I really wanted to. Um, but I really liked working with the animals. Um, but I really enjoyed the physical and the mental part of being a farmer. You get to, I didn't really want to sit behind a desk. I didn't want to be inside all day. Um, and working outside, working in the land, working with the cows, um, that opportunity. And it is physically challenging when you have to get up and work early in the morning to sometimes late at night. Um, you know, there is technology, but we still have to throw hay bales. We still, have to do physical jobs on the farm, cleaning pens and um, lifting 100-pound calves. So that part is kind of a neat challenge. But just like you asked before about how do you find out how to do things, it's I have to be a biologist, I have to be a veterinarian, I have to be a nutritionist to feed the cows. I have to understand how the digester works and how
Mhm.
what's going on with the methane project, and how to grow the crops, a biologist, an entomologist with the bugs. There's so many different things, and my job is never boring and it's never the same. And I think most jobs in agriculture are like that. And I don't think there are many fields that can offer so many opportunities and such a challenge, physically, mentally, sometimes even emotionally.
Mhm, mhm. So, Peter, we're creeping right up on 10:45 here, our stopping point. Really, my last question for you, our last question for you is, what kind of pride do you take in being a New England dairy farmer and getting to produce a variety of nutritious products to help feed your community and in our region? Well, why do you do it every day?
Well, that's a great question. That's the one that you have to think about when you're out trying to help a cow have a baby in the middle of the winter, and it's about 20 degrees below zero and the wind's blowing. But I think about, for 100 years, my family has been providing milk to the people of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Southern New England, basically. And you think of all the hundreds of thousands of gallons of milk that we've put on people's tables. And it takes a lot of work to do that. But there's a lot of satisfaction in knowing that, that we're helping people, we're putting a great product on people's table so they can have cereal. So you can have your Oreos and milk. So you can have ice cream and cheese and pizza and all those things that everybody loves to eat. We're a big part of that. And now with the electricity and the cow manure making the electricity, we're helping people, go on Zoom and go to school now. So it's really, sometimes you have to step back and think about how you fit into your community, how you fit into your, what's your place in the world. And I guess, the Melnik family has decided that, what we've been doing for 100 years is helping feed, the people of New England. And we've chosen milk as that product. We do take a lot of pride in it because it is a challenge to get up every day and take care of these awesome animals. And really, like I said, being a good part of the community is important to us, and we do take a lot of pride in that. So it's fun being a dairy farmer, but it is a job that you do take a lot of pride in.
Yeah. Well, Peter, thank you so much for giving us this fantastic virtual dairy farm tour today of your family farm. And thank you to all of you students, teachers, parents who joined us through Zoom and YouTube today. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to be with us. Stay tuned for an email from us with a recording of the tour as well as the survey we mentioned earlier for you to provide feedback on. And make sure to visit our website, newenglanddairy.com, to learn more about New England dairy farming and dairy nutrition. Again, we have lots of great information and fun activities you can try on there. Awesome recipes as we head into the holiday season for you and your family. And just a reminder, we have one more virtual farm tour coming up on October 27th, back here with Peter at Barway Farm in Greenfield, Massachusetts. The next tour is geared a little bit more towards high schoolers, but again, all ages are welcome to join us digitally. So please stay in touch and make sure you drink your milk and eat your dairy products. Thank you guys so much.